that I get asked. But first, let's talk about mold. We need to know that when I use the word fungus and mold, those are very interchangeable words. Fungus is a bigger category like mushrooms and candida, and mold is more of what we would see growing on our food or in our home. And it's everywhere. We can't completely escape mold. Um, and what we need to know about mold is it needs humidity to grow and it needs a food source. And when we're talking about our home, that is usually like sheetrock or carpeting or a porous material with fiber. When we talk about molds, I also need to talk about the different components. So over here on the right, you see a mushroom that's got a poof of smoke coming out of it, and that is actually spores. That's like the seeds um, that they use to reproduce. Just like flowers produce seeds, molds and fungus produce seeds. They also produce a toxin. So when we think about a plant, we think about a perfume or a fragrance. Well, fungus also has a fragrance or a toxin. We as humans can't always smell it, but it is a message to other fungus that, hey, this is my food source, go away. We have to talk about what are some of the symptoms of mold illness that can be from the toxins of mold as well as the spores. And there's a wide variety from allergy kind of symptoms like sneezing and coughing or asthma exacerbations, chronic sinus infections or inflammation, runny nose. Um, the toxins especially can produce some brain fog and poor memory, headaches, vertigo or dizziness, mood changes, fatigue, joint pain, digestive issues, rashes. And in children, we have to think about bedwetting that is new. So as you see, a whole lot of symptoms. We also have to talk about individual susceptibility to mold. Some people are affected by mold more than others, which is why we can see in a home with water damage that one or two people may be affected, but then others aren't. So there is a genetic susceptibility, and there's a wide variety of percentages. We used to say 25% of people were susceptible to mold toxins, but because of a genetic variation, that they were more sensitive. But now we're seeing up to 60% may have this genetic variation. But we also have to think about genetic variations on how well you get rid of toxins, whether it's plastics or pesticides or hormones. All of these in our toxic barrel, we have a variation genetically. We also have to think about an individual person's immune status. Do they already have asthma and allergies? Do they have a weakened immune system, perhaps cancer or chemotherapy? Because these people are more, they tend to react more severely to mold exposure. We also have to think about the busy, fertile, frazzled females. They are more susceptible. And that is most likely because they already have a high amount of estrogen, which contributes to our toxic barrel that we talk a lot about. So yes, in a home, moms are usually more affected than the males in the house. So let's talk about this toxic load. We have an imaginary amount of toxins we can handle, and we're getting rid of toxins all the time. We have a baseline amount of toxins. But then say we're exposed to a toxin in our environment, or we're making some food choices that might be inflammatory, our levels go up. Say we get an infection, and then we're overflowing, and that's when we have toxic load symptoms. So that's a little bit about the toxic barrel that I'm always talking about. Okay, so the other thing we have to consider with mold is how long have you been exposed to mold? So if you're living in a home and you've been there for, 5 years with having previously had a water intrusion and you're have growing mold for these 5 years and you're exposed to the toxins every day, your toxic barrel is going to
Ready
fill
by
up.
one, okay?
If you go to grandma's house for a weekend, you're only exposed for a few days, so that's not contributing to your toxic barrel quite as much. Why is mold so hard to diagnose? Symptoms are everywhere, for one thing. They overlap with allergies and Lyme's disease and fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and irritable bowel. As we saw from those symptoms, are kind of vague. There is a lot of controversy and misunderstanding about mold. Conventional medicine just doesn't get it. I didn't learn it in med school about what mycotoxins can do. We were mostly taught to focus on the allergies, but it's a lot more than just an allergy. The other thing that makes it challenging is there's not a perfect test. There's not a gold standard test, not for your home, not for the toxins in your body, and not for your immune response to mold. So not a good test. So we're back to the question, is a little mold okay? Well, it depends on who you are. It depends on how full your barrel is already and how well you can get rid of toxins. It also depends on the mold. Is the mold actively growing and producing toxins? Does it have a food source and a humidity that allows it to grow? Or is it just hanging out in a dormant state and it's not growing? What kind of mold is it? There are some that are common molds, allergenic, not really a big problem. And there are some that are just mean and they produce some really bad toxins. We probably have all heard of toxic black mold, which is called Stachybotrys. Not all molds that are black are Stachybotrys, but that's one of the ones that's especially mean. And is the mold inside the house where there's not good ventilation, or is it outside where the toxins are diluted? So it depends on where the mold is. So here's the key for everybody. What can be done? What can all of us do, whether we are sick or not? What can we do to prevent mold? Because this is getting to be a bigger and bigger issue in homes that are built so well and so tight that we're not getting good airflow. Simple, big thing is keep the humidity inside below 50%. You may want to invest in it's called an ergometer. It's a simple little device that measures the humidity and the temperature. Right now they're like $10 to $35 online. And just be aware of what's going on in your home with your humidity. In the summer, it's a lot harder to maintain the humidity than it is in the wintertime. You may need to think about a dehumidifier. They run, $200 to $300 for one for a 300 square foot home. There's different kinds. There's some that you empty the tank yourself. If you've been in our office right by our front door, we have one that I have to empty. There are some that have drains that you can drain outside. Always look for one that is easy to wash and you can change or wash the filter. This happens to be Honeywell happens to be a good brand that I've used for years. And think about your basement and crawl space. That is a place that tends to be humid. You may need a dehumidifier or a sump pump down there. Leaky foundations, humidity, sweaty pipes, especially around the HVAC system. Poor drainage can make a basement's really moldy. Some people will encapsulate their crawl space and put a dehumidifier in there. This picture has a dehumidifier on the right-hand side. The encapsulation is a really thick plastic to keep the humidity from the soil and the ground from rising up into the house. And then a sump pump is often a trench dug around the outside of the perimeter of the basement that drains to the outside. Bathrooms, leaks around tubs and showers and toilets, be aware of those. And then every time you shower, the steam builds up. It's kind of cool to be able to draw hearts and stuff on your mirror for your loved one, but that's a sign of high humidity in the bathroom. Another good place to think about putting something to decrease the humidity. Sometimes people dry the shower afterwards, take the towels into another room to dry. Whatever you can do to keep the humidity down in the bathroom. Sometimes in bathrooms, silica gel packs are kind of handy. We just tried this one here in the office. We have a bathroom that gets humid. And I bought some of these for, I think, 20 bucks, a pack for 20 bucks. And you put them in the bathroom. Our humidity in that room went from 60% down to like 49% in a week. And these are kind of cool because they have a little color indicator that when they've absorbed water, then we need to dry them out, and you put them in the microwave and then dry them out and you can reuse them. So they're handy for closets, bathrooms, and cars. HVAC systems. Condensation on the ducts, the ductwork is very common, especially if the ductwork is in an attic or a basement where it gets hot and then you have cool air running through it, then you can get condensation and you can get mold growing. We also get dust in HVAC systems. So it is a good idea every once in a while to have somebody come out and clean your air ducts, or at least check them. And I'm not talking about the vents that you see in the attic or the floor. I'm talking about that shiny silver tubing that runs from the vent that you see to the actual HVAC system. Appliances, hot water heaters, ice makers, dishwashers, they can leak, and sometimes we don't see that or even realize it. Something we can do for that is there's these little monitors. They have like a little tail. I have one underneath my refrigerator. So the little tail, if it gets wet, it sends an alarm that says, hey, there's been a water leak. So far, knock on wood, it has only been ice cubes that fall underneath the refrigerator that are setting off the alarm, but at least I know the alarm works. Laundry rooms, they tend to be humid also, but under washing machines would be another place for one of these devices. They have some that make annoying sounds like mine, but then they have some that go to your in-home monitoring system or your phone. Hope. There is hope. I know all of this sounds kind of scary and like a lot of work. It's not that you need to do all of these measures, but just being aware and being proactive to keep your home as healthy as possible, especially if you are a chemically sensitive or an immune compromised person, or if you have someone in your house who may be.